Hello from China. I'm on the road here in China for the last couple of months. It's been a hot summer. Got some rain here today. Hopefully you can hear my voice okay over the sound of the rain. I'm doing the old iPhone record here until I get back to my studio later on in the year. I got an interesting question raised in the Taoist Alchemy online program that I run by one of the participants. He's a medical professional, and he was wondering about longevity from the Taoist perspective. Longevity, immortality, how far can these arts take you, and what does longevity mean? What does that entail? So let's start with some theory. So I've often talked about Ming, and Ming is a term that comes up often within Taoist practice. You have Ming Gong and Xing Gong, and Xing Ming Shuang Xiu, the dual cultivation of Xing and Ming. And basically Ming is can translate as destiny, but it's also the destiny of our life, right? But it's also the life force that will carry us over the course of our life. So it has different meanings within it. And it relates to sort of this world stuff. So our physical body, the energy within our physical body, and what we're going to do with it. Why do we have this physical body in the first place? And what are we going to do with it, right? And the opposite of Ming is Xing. And Xing is the eternal, never-changing part of us. That is very important for our practice as well, right? And so our lineage, and a lot of Taoist lineages, are dual cultivation of Xing and Ming. And so very often we start with the Ming, with the body, working with the body and energy to increase the Ming and give us more juice, more power in this life to do what we need to do. And so that's all sort of encapsulated within Ming. Now, if we're going to talk about longevity, there's another term that gets used very often, which I don't see talked about much in the West, and that's shou. So shou directly translates as longevity, whereas Ming is a weird one to translate, just because it has different aspects to it. But shou is longevity. It's how long we're going to live. That's basically it. And so this person who asked this question is like, so it's probably to do with Ming. And yeah, I mean, longevity is to do with Ming, but it's also to do with shou. If you want to look at this, it's best to use both of these terms. So what's the difference between shou and Ming? Well, first of all, everyone has their shou is determined by heaven. However, we do have some leeway to increase our shou. Now, the best way to think of this is if life is a highway and we're driving down this highway, then shou is the length of the highway. It's how long we have to drive, right, before we exit this body and do something else. Now, Ming is the thickness of the highway. It's how many lanes you have on the highway. It's how big that highway is, right? Wow, it's really pouring down here. I love it. Hopefully you can hear this okay. And so Ming would be the thickness of the highway, right? So, for example, we can have a big Ming, but have a short shou, right? So someone who comes into this life, does a lot, but isn't here for very long. You know, I don't know, someone like, say, Mozart, right? Wrote some incredible music that's really touched a lot of people, but he took off pretty early, right? So he would have a short shou, but a pretty decent Ming. And then someone else might have a really long shou. They might stick around for, 100 years or so, but not do much, just kind of hang out. That's fine too. That's just you have a long shou, but your Ming isn't very big, right? And so these two terms, these two ideas, they work together within Taoist practice. And we have methods that can work on both of those. So we want to increase both, right? We want to increase your shou to yan shou, right? To increase the length of the life, but we also want to understand our ming and increase the ming. So increasing ming, we call it tian shou, or sorry, tian ming, and then jie ming. Jie ming is to come to terms with our ming, realize it, and live it, our destiny. So this is using ming as the idea of destiny. It's the kind of the blueprint of what we're doing here in this life. And as practitioners, as Taoist practitioners, cultivators, understanding our ming is really important. I would extend that. I think it's important for everybody, but definitely for cultivators, right? What we want to do is understand what we're here to do. What is our ming? And then work to increase it, to widen the thickness of that road, to have as big an impact in our life as we can, right? So when my teacher, Master Wang, was young, his teachers got him to work with the Ming side of things first and then increase the shou. Because the question is, so you can increase the longevity and we can also increase our destiny. So which should we do? Which should we do first? Which should we do second? Should we do them both? Well, the answer is going to be different for everyone, right? Master Wang, he started with Ming, so his teachers got him working with his destiny right away. And I think part of that is because he had a big job. He had a big responsibility here. He was here to become the successor to the Longmen Pai, the Dragon Gate Lineage, and make sure that his lineage got passed on. And so it was a lot of work, a lot of weight on his shoulders, right? And so he had to work with extending the Ming, the Tian Ming, coming to terms with what his destiny is and then increasing it. He said it was really tough. It's tough to work with the destiny first and then increasing longevity second. So increasing longevity is kind of fun when you apply methods for increasing longevity. It's quite happy. It's quite nice. You feel good. There's specific energetic practices we use, and you feel good, right? You get healthier, and your life begins to extend, and good stuff, fun. Ming, it's work. You're applying energetic methods, specific techniques and methods to Jie Ming. For destiny, it's to add. You're basically adding oil to the lamp of your Ming. Right. So in the old days in the temple, you'd have a lantern on the altar, and you want to add oil to the lamp. So the light, which is usually on a Taoist altar, the light represents the spark of eternal goodness inside everyone. And so you want to brighten that, right? Brighten that light. But it's tough work. Energetically, you're working often cycling energy through circuits backwards and doing different funky stuff. And it can be, you're purging the system of old zhuo qi, turbid qi, and old karma. So a lot of increasing your destiny involves burning through old karma. And the more we can burn through our old karma, that's the right. So karma is the results of all the choices that have brought us to this present point. And if we can resolve some of those choices, the karma, the energetic substance that's associated with that, we can burn through it, sublimate it, then our destiny moving forward into the future will get bigger and more, will increase, right? So it's a lot of dealing with past stuff. But again, there's specific methods we're using, okay? And so I think for a lot of people, I think increasing longevity is fine, it's good. And then for some of the more serious practitioners who really want to get some work done in this life, then you gotta Jie Ming. You gotta get into the destiny stuff too. Not just increase the length of your life, but live a better life. figured out what it is you're here to do and do it, right? We all come into this life with a responsibility from the Taoist perspective. And there's, if we don't live up to those responsibilities, right? And no one outside of us can know what those responsibilities are. So these aren't responsibilities your mom or your dad or people in your life are telling you about. It's the stuff inside your heart that you got to do, right? It's that stuff. And if you don't do it, you'll get sick, right? So Taoists will say, if you don't follow your destiny, then it's called fu ming. And if that happens, then ji will arise, right? And so ji bing is an illness. So illness in Chinese is ji bing. Bing is more physical illness. Ji is illness of the mind or the heart that arises and then impacts and then makes you physically sick, right? So you get sick, right? I bet people out there get like cancer because they're not following their destiny, right? So with our lineage, both are important, right? And both are an important part of longevity and immortality. And so let's take a look at some of what those methods are. This is not going to be a how-to video by any means, but just to give you a taste of what they are. And for some of you who are within this lineage, you'll know which ones are which, and this will make sense for you. So, let's start with yan shou. So a typical way of increasing your longevity, the shou, is by doing, say, the Maoyo cosmic orbit. The Maoyo cosmic orbit, also known as Moyun Wuxin, is when we work with the internal organs in the body. There's a circuit that we go through. We start from the lower dantian, go down to the gallbladder, up to the liver, liver to heart, heart to spleen, spleen to lungs, lung to kidneys, and back down to the gallbladder. And so we go through that circuit using specific techniques to work the organs and work the Jing energy in the organs, refining the Jing energy into Qi. Good stuff. And then we use that Jing energy, deposit back into the lower dantian, and then fire it to create an elixir. That's pretty classic internal alchemy. Now, that is a certain sequence that we use, and it's good for longevity. However, if you want to roll up your sleeves and get to work, then reverse the circuit, go the other way, and that becomes now a jieming practice. So, or adding lamp oil to the lamp, right? And so we reverse the circuit. So generally when we go through the circuit the first way, we're following the creation cycle of the 5 phases, because each organ is associated with one of the phases. It's raining. It's actually nice, the rain. It's been hot here, like high 30s, 40. The day I arrived was 41 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is Fahrenheit, but hot. So it's kind of nice having the rain. Anyways, back on track here. So if you go through the sheng cycle, the birth cycle, creation cycle of the 5 phases, going through the organs, then you are extending your life. It's good for your health. It's great, and do it lots. If you want to roll up your sleeves and get to work at cycling out burning through karma, getting through some of the nasty stuff, then reverse the circuit. Go from so you start from dantian down to bladder, not gallbladder, down to the bladder, bladder up to kidneys up to lungs down to stomach, stomach spleen up to heart to liver back to bladder, and then back up into the lower dantian. It's intense. Master Wang taught it in retreat sometimes, and some people threw up, like vomited. So yeah, it's intense. It's hard work. It's really hard work. Energetically, physically, mentally, emotionally, it really wrings out the whole system. So that's an example of sort of a practice you can do for extending life, longevity, or dealing with your destiny, increasing your destiny. Another one where we add oil to the lamp practice is, some of you will remember it when we go to the top of the head, come down inside the torso all the way down. It's called the midnight practice, 自始功. Come all the way down to the Huiyin area. That part isn't adding oil to the lamp, but then we do an intense breathing procedure with the Huiyin area, where you contract it. It's a very specific way of contracting and holding the breath for a certain number of seconds, and it's very complicated. But we're bringing a piece of true yang into the dantian. So it's working with true yang, right? So the Huiyin area is the lowest area in the torso, in the body, especially when you're in sitting meditation because your legs are folded. That's your lowest point. So that's the most yin point in the body. You go in there and bring out a piece of pure yang, and you bring it into the dantian, right? So that little piece of pure yang is going to increase your destiny. It's going to do good things for your destiny. And so people who've done that practice will know that's one for adding oil to the lamp. Yeah, so Ming and Shou, two important terms that help us understand longevity and mortality. All kind of theoretical, right? I mean, kind of got into the practice stuff a bit, but I think the original question from the student, he's really interested in results, right? As we all should be. I think results are great. Like, okay, so that's the theory. So how far can you go with this stuff? I mean, is immortality possible? Can you get there? Can you live forever? I don't know. All I do know, and I think when we have these kind of conversations, it's important to keep it really grounded and really open mind, but not conceptual, right? Not thinking this or that. What have we seen? What have we experienced? And maybe directly with different people, what have we seen them go through and experience, right? So I'm going to get to the immortality thing, I think, a little bit later in the talk, and it's a very interesting thing in terms of just general health and aging. And this person who asked this question was interested in the aging process, and can we reverse the aging process or slow it down? And I think definitely we can slow it down. And my experience is that my own complexion, my own face has gotten younger as I've practiced internal alchemy. Substantially younger. I was looking at some pictures of myself from 15 years ago, and I was kind of shocked. I mean, the much more darkness under my eyes and wrinkles, and my whole complexion just looked more gray, darker, older. It just looked older, right? And so the more I practice this, the younger my complexion gets. Now I started losing my hair in my 20s, just luck of genetics. My mother's father, so my grandfather on my paternal side is totally bald, and so on and so on. Apparently the gene comes from that side of things. So my hair hasn't grown back. Maybe I need to practice harder. I don't know. But I've definitely noticed it in terms of my complexion, and in terms of my general demeanor. I feel younger. I don't feel so rigid and kind of stressed. I used to have a lot of anxiety, that sort of stuff. But again, that's really hard to measure, right? I think what I can see is if I look at my face and compare it to an older picture of me, yeah, I look younger for sure. And I remember Master Wang, same thing. His very, very good complexion. So creamy skin, rosy cheeks, very rosy cheeks, and twinkly eyes. So there's a bug flying around here. There he is. Hello, goodbye, go away. And then the other thing I want to mention is when we are on retreat and we're applying these methods, it's very noticeable to see the participants on retreat with Master Wang, to see their faces at the beginning of the retreat and at the end of the retreat. And they just look so much younger, right? I mean, I was recently on a retreat and I was talking to someone and she just kind of looked and she's like, yeah, she's Chinese. She's like, yeah, everyone just looks looks better, 更好看. There's a real change that happens, and generally there's more color, like paler, but in a good way. So less gray. So gray, I find, is not what we want. We want sort of pale, but with rosiness, and just younger. Like the skin looks smoother, more translucent. And it was really noticeable on this retreat and other retreats too I've been on. It's just, you see it. You can see it and so there's something going on there. Yeah. So immortality, is it possible? I have no idea. I mean, all of Master Wang and his teachers have, their body has, well, not Master Wang, he's still here, but his teachers, their body has died, I guess. I mean, some of them are definitely very, very well preserved. That's something that happens. So when their spirit leaves, their bodies are very, very well preserved. They don't break down the way other bodies do. There's some interesting stories about Master Wang, because Master Wang took care of his teachers' bodies after they passed. But I think there's a difference between physical immortality and spiritual immortality. And I know for some people this be kind of a cop-out, but for me it really makes sense. The more I practice this, the more I realize that I'm not my physical body. I'm something else. I'm a Shen, or Shenling. And the Shenling is it's the spirit, right? And so the more you practice internal alchemy, we start with the physical body. Physical body is a foundation of the practice, but we go beyond the physical body fairly quickly and fairly profoundly within this lineage, in terms of spirit travel and just working with the astral body, I guess you call it in English, I'm not really sure, but other bodies, right? The subtle bodies. And you realize that I'm not my physical body. So so much of this practice is working with Shen, right? It's Shen Gong. And if we can work with our Shen, and we can bring our Shen back to Yuan Shen from Shi Shen, so sensory Shen and the Shen associated with our thinking, our conceptual mind, we bring that back to original Shen, which is a specific embodied experience. Then that original Shen, which also works with the Ling. So Ling is the spirit that is eternal. And when at conception, the Ling and the Shen are fused at conception, right? And we can work, there's very specific practices we work with to bring the Ling back into the body and cultivate Ling and bring Ling and Shen together. And the more we do that, then after you die, it's kind of like you're going to stick around for a while, I think. I mean, I'm just kind of riffing here. You have something that can linger, right? If you've done spirit travel, you're not your physical body. You can travel. You can leave it and go somewhere. So your physical body dies, then maybe there's something more, right? Maybe that's what they mean by immortality, right? Is that spirit that sticks around. And Master Wang's teachers have stuck around past their physical body, according to him. He communicates with them and works with them. Yeah, so interesting stuff, So there's no definitive answer to this in terms of how far you can push the envelope of physical immortality and spiritual immortality and all that kind of stuff. But I think in this talk, I've been able to share sort of some of the theoretical framework and then some of the practices we use to work with longevity and the importance of destiny. And then finally, I'm going to leave you with one thing. Master Wang, within the lineage, his teachers did it, and he does it, is what they do is you pick a number that you're going to die at, right? So you pick the age that you want to die. And that number can be pretty big. So for Master Wang, it's 150 years old. So he's going to live to 150. And you hold that number within you and you believe it wholeheartedly, you just give yourself to it, I'm going to live to that age, right? Some people might be 100, 120, whatever that 200, 500, whatever you want to do. You got to believe it. You got to believe it. You hold on to that age. And so that's something that is done within our lineage as well. And then there's other practices for Wen shou, so asking about your shou. So, but I'll leave that for another time. So that's, Wen shou means to find out when you're going to die. Or at least understand what the show that heaven has given you, and then you increase it from there, right? So there you go, there you have it. I'm gonna, hopefully the audio isn't too bad for this recording. I'm gonna head back in, and I'll talk to you next time. Okay, take care, bye bye.